you have a weekly podcast, and I want people to be introduced to that podcast because it's brilliant and it's very informational with not only things from the past but current events. You focus a lot on things that are happening today. So can you tell our folks about your podcast, how they can find it? And we'll put links obviously with this that they can click on, but let's hear about your podcast.
After years of being a guest on various radio shows, TV shows, and of course speaking in churches all over the country, I was asked by the local Salem channel in Sacramento, which was the nearest city to where I lived in a rural community. Dennis, why don't you do a radio show? This was 13 years ago. And I said, I don't know anything about radio. Don't know anything about hosting a radio show. And so I've done it every week now for 13 years. And when they asked me first of all, here, talk about providence. And I'll just slip this in. They said, well, you got to find a sponsor because it's $200 every half hour that we give you to broadcast your program. So you got to have a sponsor. I didn't know anything about finding a sponsor. I went to the men's prayer meeting on that following Saturday morning, the following week after the day, just days after I was asked to consider having my own radio show. I sat next to an old friend that I'd known for years, who was a football guy, but he owned a company. And I told him, he asked me what's going on. I said, well, I've got this dilemma. I've been asked to do this radio show, and they want me to find a sponsor. Okay, we went through the meeting together. It ended up, we were picking up and, rolling the tables and moving the chairs back to their places. And he said, Dennis, he said, I think my company can sponsor your program. I said, really? Okay, that's providence. I just happened to sit next to him. He just happened to hear me because he asked what was going on, and it just happened that week. And all of a sudden, things are falling into place. And his company has sponsored the show every week, every month, every year for 13 years now.
Wow, that's amazing.
They asked me, what do you want to call your show? The Lord had been dealing with me on some things that I was teaching in general ways, and the Lord had been helping me put together a concept, which I'll share with you in another time. But the title that came out of that concept of teaching was Reclaiming Your Legacy. And that's a kind of a unusual association of words, reclaiming your legacy, reclaiming your legacy. Well, your legacy is something that you don't own. It's the legacy is something that's forward moving. It's owned by the people that you pass your legacy on to. Mm-hmm. Reclaiming your legacy is basically trying to help people recognize that we have lost that sense of legacy in our culture. We for the most part, many people are so busy with their life and just kind of getting by that they have missed a lot of the concepts that make up a legacy. And we need to be more consciously, more conscientiously thinking about the legacy that we will pass on to our children and children's children. The Bible has a lot to say about that. I often refer to Psalm 78, of course. And it kind of relates over to 2 Timothy chapter 2, where it says, the things that I teach you, I commit these things to you, Timothy. You are to commit them to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. So there's at least 4 generations of teaching there. And so the idea of legacy is there. And so I call it Reclaiming Your Legacy. And you can find it at reclaimyourlegacy.com. It's all of the past shows are there, and they're all archived. Not only are they archived audio files, but also the entire transcripts are there as well.
That's excellent, and I will link those in the show notes, as we call them, so people can just click on that. And I encourage you to follow those links and listen to Dennis's weekly podcast. They're always excellent. And stay tuned for, hopefully we'll get an advanced class on creation, because it's a wonderful subject and there's just so much to it. And we encourage you to search out these matters, especially if you've kind of bought into that evolutionist that ideology of evolution. That's a mistake, and I think it's kind of related to the great deception, as the Bible calls
Yeah,
it, isn't it?
it really
Awesome.
is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it truly is. Yeah.
Well, Dennis, I've taken so much of your time. I could talk with you for hours. It's always so fascinating, but I want to bring an end to this recording so I don't have to spend hours and hours editing it.
Yeah.
All great stuff. I wish I could show the whole thing, and I think I will. I'll post probably the whole interview, but I'll take some edited versions to put on the broadcast
Oh, sure.
this coming Sunday morning. So, but Dennis, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Oh, such a blessing to be with you, Thomas. I look forward to it another time.
Yes, and we're praying for you. We're praying for all of the things that are going on in your life, and I want to encourage our people to pray for you as well. So,
I
thanks,
sure
Dennis. God
appreciate
bless
that.
you.
God bless you, Thomas. Thank you so much.